In this video, you will learn how to measure and annotate structures you have photographed under your microscope. Hi, I'm Alexandra Żuraw and I'm here to help you do better digital pathology and tissue image analysis. So if you're interested in that, be sure to subscribe to the channel, click the bell below, and be notified every time I release a new video. I have recently decided to step up my microscopic photography game. So I got this super high resolution, 4K, Path4K microscope camera from I.Miller Microscopes. I've already published a video about this camera, the unboxing video and a general tutorial, but today we're going to focus on measurements and on annotations. Chances are that if you're taking photographs from your microscope, at some point you needed to measure. And this camera comes with a powerful but user-friendly software that enables both measurements and annotations and many different things. So I invited Mike Miller from I.Miller Microscopes to show us exactly where to click and how to measure, including calibration of your objectives. I like this camera so much that I became an affiliate. So if you're interested in stepping up your microscopy photography game, be sure to check my affiliate link below if you'd like to get this camera. The link is going to take you to an inquiry page at I.Miller Microscopes. There you put your email, you say that you saw this camera on my YouTube channel, and from there, I.Miller Microscopes is going to contact you with a special offer, because I have a special offer for my subscribers, and the offer is more or less in the price ballpark of a good DSLR camera. And now let's see how you can measure things when you photograph something under the microscope. Hi Mike, it's great to have you again. And today we're going to be talking about the three things that probably every pathologist needs when they want to work with their images under the microscope, regardless whether they are working in a diagnostic environment, in a research environment, toxicologic pathologist. At some point, we're going to need those three things. And one of them is measuring things, the other one is measuring area of something, and the third one is going to be counting things. And I have my favorite demo slide under the microscope already with Besnoitia parasites that are perfect for measuring. One thing that I want to mention is before we start measuring anything, we have to calibrate our microscope. And Mike, maybe you can talk about it briefly. And we have a video. The only thing I want to show is that we need a special slide for this. So if you could say a couple of words and then we can move to the measuring part.
Yeah, sure. So the special slide you're talking about is called a stage micrometer. In the world of microscopes, all microscope manufacturers have a certain tolerance level, and they say that a 10x objective surely should be a 10x, but it may be 9.99, could be 10.01. Some software comes with the ability to have it pre-configured, but for the most part, you are going to want to calibrate your microscope. You're going to want to use what's called a stage micrometer. A stage micrometer is a piece of glass, a glass slide with an etched line. Now, that line is of known reference. Now, unlike other instruments, a stage micrometer never really changes. As long as the stage micrometer is kept in a nice environment, there's no change needed. So once you calibrate a microscope once, as long as nothing changes about the optical setup, there's really no need to recalibrate again. So that's important. Some manufacturers, some companies, some institutions do require you to calibrate a microscope every so often. That's usually more on the industrial manufacturing side. For clinical, you calibrate it once and you're done. But of course, it's important to understand that, and it's important to understand how to calibrate. If you did need a higher degree of calibration, there are standards and certified traceable stage micrometers from NIST that you could purchase. But again, for clinical applications, for the most part, you're perfectly fine using a pretty standard stage micrometer. So with our Path4K camera that we're looking at and using here, the stage micrometer actually is included in the box. So there's no need to worry about procuring one of those. We provided for you. We can then go to our magnification list and we can see, oh, you know what? We've only done it for the 2.5x. So maybe, Alex, it's up to you. If you want to go ahead and put that slide on, we can do another objective really quickly. It's up to you.
Okay, let's do very quickly our next objective. So
I'm gonna exchange here. Let's do the 4x.
Oh, and sorry, we're on our captured image, so we want to let's close this so we don't get confused again. But here we're back to live.
Where is my thing?
And yeah, the only challenge, there you go, is finding this out. You had it. There you go.
Yeah, let me find
Okay,
it
perfect.
until.
Perfect.
Now we have it. Okay,
So what objective are we on here?
4x. Let me check.
Okay,
Double
so
check. Yes.
okay, perfect. So this is a good example. Again, just to go through this procedure real quick, we go to Options, Calibrate. Again, we'll show you how to zoom in here. So in this case, again, you want to just get the lines at low mag. You just want to get these approximately close here, okay? And then again, the shortcut here is holding control and scrolling up with my mouse wheel. And then that kind of does some zooming in here. So it allows us to actually fine tune and make sure we are actually at this right spot. So here, okay, we're at the right-hand side of that line. And here again, you want to start and begin at the same side of the line. Of course, at higher mag, it's much easier to see, but I'll say that's very close. We're starting at the right side of that line. We're ending at the right side of this line. In this case, again, I think you said it was our 4x objective.
Correct.
Now, there are some objectives in here preset, but you can just type anything in by hand. And then in this case, I know that micrometer that we provide is 1 millimeter. So this whole line being 1 millimeter, we then push OK. And now we then have our calibrations for our second objective here. And while we have our stage micrometer up already, it's very easy to come back here and draw a line. And just to confirm, that is 1 millimeter. Okay. So just like that, you're calibrated. Again, you go through the procedures on how to calibrate. You pull your stage micrometer up, and then boom, you are calibrated. And
beautiful. So let's go to our other slide, and you already started measuring the micrometer. We're going to measure our
measurement there.
Parasites now.
And zooming out to full screen here. Okay. Beautiful.
Let's go.
Okay. Looks good.
Okay.
So Alex, I think something real quick, something that I don't think we've touched on yet, which is obviously the most important thing when you're looking at a camera, is image quality. I would say as a non-pathologist, that's a beautiful image from an imaging standpoint. But you as a pathologist, what do you think of the image quality?
Yes, I love it. And now I'm on my laptop, but I was trying this on my 2K screen, and it's a 4K camera, so I am not even exploring the full resolution I could here. But I am very happy with the new C-mount. We don't have the vignetting anymore, and it's really, really nice, perfectly in focus, even on the edges of the image, which is super important because then it saves you cropping the image. I mean, if you have the vignetting, you can still have high resolution and good quality, even if you cut out the image later when you want to use it for anything. But it just makes life simpler, and the simpler, the better for me.
Yes, exactly. Yep. So with the appropriate C-mount, as you said, you lose the vignetting, but I still have to say you probably still see a very large field of view left to right, especially. So if you look through the eyepieces, you'll probably see about 90 to 95% of that field of view still, which is really nice.
Correct.
And then we also talked about the resolution. So I talked about during calibration the magnification, but it's important to look at here. We're zooming out. So because this is a 4K camera on a standard 1080 screen, you actually zoom out to see a full field of view. And I point that out because we can go up to our 100% here, and this is our true resolution. So here, maybe you can fine tune your focus slightly, but this actually is our true resolution. So you can zoom in. Now you're not eclipsing digital zoom. This is still the zoom, the magnification resolution of the camera. We then can over zoom over to 200%, and you start to see pixelization. But point is, if you did need to zoom in slightly, we want to fit this to our window. So you see a full field, you can zoom in without the need to increase your objective, and just know that you do have some optical resolution built in without getting to the digital zoom. A bit over the top there, but just wanted to explore or explain why some people ask why this says it's zoomed out. Okay.
Yeah. So let's measure those vacuoles.
Okay. So in this case, you're talking about these vacuoles here. So as you see here, the software comes with a large option of measurement capabilities. So in the simplest form, we want to do a line measurement. And Alex, does this start here at the wall or does this start here at
Yeah,
the
let's
center?
start on the inside of the wall.
Okay, so we
Let's
start on
measure
the
the
inside of the
inner
wall. And
diameter.
again, in order to make the highest degree of measurements, you can zoom in. So I'm zooming in here, not digital yet, but it just gives me a better ability to find the edge better. So just simply clicking, the way this software works is you click, drag, and click again to end your measurement. And just like that, we now have our measurement. Now, you see how the icon still is that little crosshair, and you see how my line tool is still active? This is saying if I wanted to do another measurement, I can just start and do that here, okay? So in this case, now we have our two measurements. Now, if you wanted to move your text, you see I'm still at my crosshair. Well, all I have to do here is right click. By right clicking on the mouse, my crosshair becomes my selection tool. So that's a nice little shortcut, and that then allows you to drag the measurements. And I happen to know that the first one was larger, 0.754, and the second one was a little bit smaller. So I'm going to drag these appropriately to each spot, okay? So that's a really nice tool there for measurements, very simple and basic, okay?
So now we are still in video live view, right?
Yep.
So if we wanted to have this on our image for later reference, we
Sure.
just snap it, right?
Yeah, let me show maybe another measurement or two first, and then I'll go over how to capture and save everything, if that's okay with you. Because so we talked about also the area. So in this case,
Yes.
you have different line tools. You have a parallel line tool. You have a vertical line tool. We're going to look for here probably our ellipse because it's not perfectly round, but it depends. You also have a circle. And notice here that when you look at this little arrow down, it gives you different options. So maybe because this is an ellipse and we want to have as most accurate as possible, we choose our 5 point. So here I'm doing my 5 points around this object here, and you can see then it starts to build my area. Okay. Now again, it's not perfect. There's not we're not going based off of the ability to actually draw an arbitrary line and have it give our area inside, which we can get to. But for relatively speaking, this here now becomes, and we can see here on our side, information about the measurement and all that, but this here becomes our measurement. So
Question, Mike. Can we do a freehand drawing of this as well?
So yes, let me.
Is that the one on the right? The many points next to T?
That's an arc. Yes, I'm sorry. Yep, there it is. I knew it was there. Polygon. Yep. Thank you. So in this case, what I want to do real quick, just to show, is I can also select my measurement and hit the delete key, and that's going to remove that. So yes, let's do polygon. So in this case, yes, the more points you click on, the more accurate your measurement will be, and you can see just doing it quickly for the sake of time, but also pretty accurate. So here, and then to end it, you just right click. So right click now ended that. And then I can again right click to switch to my adjustment tool. And now I can move any of these points I want to, and I can also move my text away. So there's a better representation. 41 millimeters squared is the area of that ellipse, or polygon, I should say.
Beautiful.
Okay? Again, I don't want to get into the weeds here too much. I'll say a few things is when you make a measurement, depending on the settings, we have, in this case for your setup, we have your measurement information appear here. What this allows us to do is change things like the line color. We can make it thicker, but also just keep in mind, again, I won't get too in depth, but under options and our measurement tab, we also can change we can change the default line and font size here, but under object, we can actually change, here you're seeing it's the default properties of each of these measurements. So if I wanted to make my default line color black, which we've done for you, we can change that here, and every type of measurement you can adjust here. So again, in this case, our polygon was a bit hard to see, and so we can maybe increase our width. But again, these are then the default settings. So just important to note that really everything that you want to change or manipulate in the software can be optimized for you. Okay?
This is perfect as well, because if you are preparing, I don't know, for a presentation, for a poster, even for a publication, you can set this up front depending on the journal's requirements, of the publisher requirements, and you can do it while you're capturing your image. You don't have to later take them into PowerPoint and put those things in addition, like as a separate step. So I like this as well, because again, it simplifies your life, and I like when it's simple.
Now, you just hit an important conversation, important topic to call upon real quick is accuracy. So in this case, you are correct. We are doing this live. If I go back to my camera tab here, we are on our live video tab. And now it's important to note as well that we are at our 4x objective. Now, I didn't ask you beforehand, and I should have. What objective are we on when we do these measurements, Alex?
Yes, 4x. No, wait.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, 4x. Correct.
Okay,
correct.
Good. Okay, good. Now, again, it's important to note since we're live, you want to tell the software what magnification you're on before you do anything or capture any images. Because we're live, I can change the magnification here, and you see that my measurements change. But if we captured the image before we made measurements and we did not tell it what magnification we're on, then we're going to not have accurate measurements. So it's a very, very important first step is to make sure you tell the software what magnification you're on. Now, again, I know we're getting into a lot of things here, but everything about the software can be optimized. So in this case, what we have here under capture is we have capture with measurements. We have that set to yes. We can have that say yes, no, or merge. For the most applications, you want to say yes. And what that allows us to do is then we have our measurements here. When we click snap, it creates our tab here. And when I go to my tab, we then have these measurements. Now they're there, but you can see that they're still movable, meaning they're not merged or burned into the image. Okay? This allows us to do two things. If we captured, so let me just show you. It's easy enough to show you. But if we capture, come on, with and merge, then we lose the ability to have our unedited image. So if I do this here and then I go here and capture, we then ask us to burn it in. We then have our image 3 here, but these are now burned in. Okay, so now I don't have the ability to have my raw unedited image. So again, it's important, and most people then, why I leave this for most people to capture with measurements but not merge is because then in this case, we have our image. What we can do here then is go to layer. We can merge these to the image or hitting my F2 key. Notice how then it creates us a new image here, image 4. These are now burned in, but I can come here to my image 2 and I can select all of them and delete them. Okay?
Perfect.
So that's again important because now we have, and we can then save in these individual images. Just to go through the final process, sorry I'm talking a lot, but let me just say test raw, okay? And I'll let you delete these off your desktop later. And then here I can come here to my image 4, and when I save those, I now have test measure, and then I'm sure on your desktop, or we can go to our folders diagram here under our desktop. So we have test measure, so the measurements, and then under back to our browse, we have test raw, and now there's no measurements. Okay.
Perfect. So this is super important if you are working in a regulated environment where you are actually not allowed to manipulate your original image. And so then you have to have your raw image there as part of your data. So this is super important feature.
Right. Yep. So that's really, again, there's a lot of different tools that you can use here as far as measurement goes. Your circle, if you wanted to find the distance between two circles, I don't know if there's any relation of how close different settles are in clinical application, but that's a nice tool. So there's really every type of measurement you could want is included really actually at no extra cost to the end user as well. So with this camera, with the Path4K camera, with the InFocus software, everything you see here comes included.
So third thing that I would want to learn, how do we count objects? Let's say I just wanted to count all those vacuoles and mark each of them as counted and have like an automated output how many I counted. How do we do that?
Yep. Okay, no problem. So actually, before we get there, before I delete these measurements, just want to show you here too, that if you did have the need to have your measurement data, instead of just having them shown on the image, you can actually export these. So you can export your Excel to HTML, Excel, or CSV. Again, a lot of more use case in the on the industrial side, but maybe for research or some clinical customers, you may want to export your results. You can do that here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Control A to select all my measurements and delete them by hitting the delete key. Should work. There we go. And now I have my raw image. And now you wanted to count. Okay.
Yes.
So under process, here is a tool called segmentation and count. Now, everything else is grayed out because I'm on live, right? So we want to just be able to do manual counting on live, which is what you're asking about here. So when we do this, this is now our counting window. What we want to do here is we can add different things. So I'm just going to call this, and maybe you want to tell me something, but I'm just going to call it for now A cells and B cells, right?
Okay.
And now it's straightforward from here. So we move this window out of the way, and now whichever whatever one we have selected here is what we're actually going to count. So again, maybe you can instruct me. I'll show you how this is done first, and then you can say how it's maybe done in a clinical application. But here, we then come here and we want to count our cells that we called A. By clicking on them, you then add, oops, I missed this one, you add a marker in there, and it adds to your count here. Okay. Now, let's say you had a second type of cell, and again, I'm not positive, I'm not a pathologist, but let's just say these empty areas here are different types of cells. We then can select those and count those as our B cells. So pretty straightforward, pretty simple. I know it's important. That's why we're going over it, of course. So here, again, and you can add as many as you want, but it gives you the percentage, it gives you the total count and everything like that.
Beautiful. So this is very much used both in diagnostic. If you're, for example, counting Ki-67 in your fields of view, this is what you would do. For research, whatever type of cells, especially if you're doing immunohistochemistry and you need any type of counts that you're usually doing manually, here you at least mark where you counted and you don't question yourself, have I seen this cell already or not?
Right. Right. Now it's, again, you're talking about fields of view, so you have to make sure that you go off one field of view and all that. But yes, this is a very easy counting tool. We can save some presets. So if you said, okay, every time I want to have 3 cells, instead of having to add them each individually, you can save a preset really easily here as well. Okay.
Beautiful. And when you had those gray out things that you had, I saw some image analysis algorithms there. Can you mention what these do and how to use them?
Yeah, I'll preface this by saying this. There are companies, and we just spoke about, there's AI is huge in the clinical space, including pathology. But there are companies that have algorithms and have worked years and years and years to perfect the algorithm for Ki-67, HER2, all those markers. This is not that. This is a more basic, not fine-tuned. I'm not saying it won't work. I just have to preface by saying there are companies out there that specifically design AI and algorithms to do that. This can do it to a very, very basic degree, and it has to be a very perfect sample. So I'll show you that. I just want to preface by saying that because that's just, it's not as fine-tuned. And also, Alex, too, I have to be honest with everyone here. This also is included at no extra cost in the software. Again, these AI software and programs, they're extremely expensive in some regards. So this is a very basic way to do it. But there's a couple different options here, and the help guide goes through all of these in much greater detail. In this case, for our application here, what we want to try is color cube. And this allows us to, based off of thresholding, I can put in, by dropping and selecting my RGB values, you can select different areas. Now, again, Alex, maybe you want to exclude this, but this is why it's not the greatest, because you can't, there's no histogram. You're really just going off of your color tolerances here. You can fine tune a few things, saying, fill them in or not, but it's really, really not meant for clinical cell image analysis. So, I mean, you can run that.
This is also not the best sample for, in general, H&E images are challenging for image analysis, especially this, basic threshold-based, handcrafted feature basic analysis. H&E is difficult. This was something where IHC was a better use case because you have brown and you have a totally different color background. So I think maybe for this it would work better, but for research application, for some projects, why not?
Yep, exactly. And actually, it's trying to count every little cell here, and you're running off, I think, on your laptop. So I apologize. I shouldn't have even hit okay because it's taking a while to process. So yes, you are correct. On a perfectly stained specimen with good contrast that can do tolerances and thresholding, then this is a viable option. But for the most part, we're going to stick with that individual counting, and then trust and rely on the companies that are dedicated only to doing AI. Leave it for the experts in that sense. All right. So So Alex, you had asked about after we showed you the counting, we talked about some more in-depth image analysis and going back a step actually to talk about a way that we can increase the ability to do better counting across larger field of views. So again, I understand that in some cases you're going to want to just count based off of one field of view at a certain magnification, but just showing you a feature, whether it's for counting, whether it's for documentations or publications, this software has stitching, XY stitching, or mosaic or live image builder, whatever you want to call it, but it's free and included in the cost of the camera with the software. So in order to do that, we go to our stitching icon, and I want to make sure that you have, it's required or extremely beneficial to have an XY slide holder. So I know in
I
clinical
do have
applications,
one. I put
yeah,
it
in
back
clinical
on
applications,
for the purpose of this video, Mike.
perfect, perfect. So I know that some people in your industry will call those training wheels to have an XY slide holder on there, but hey, it will help you in this case for XY stitching. But again, just to summarizing, saying you'll really want the XY slide holder on there to move the slide for stitching. But what this can do is XY stitching. So by clicking this icon, we then have our single field of view here, and this green means that it's seeing it and it's going well. So I'll have you then move up, down, left, or right, starting in the
Okay.
one way. And as you see here, going somewhat slow so that window stays green, but the algorithm is working to build us an image. In this case, I think we're in 4x, but you can do this at any magnification, right? And when you're ready, you can then go left or right.
Okay, let me go.
And then back down.
Here.
Yep, doesn't matter which way you go.
Okay, and I don't even have to look into the microscope. That's cool.
And then go down. Yep, you want to leave a little bit of overlap. So it's just looking at a pattern recognition in the algorithm. So this is any good H&E stain slide would work well.
That is so cool, because often for presentations, for teaching, you want to have the whole low mag of the slide. Right. Oh no, it was yellow.
Yeah, yellow is still fine. If it gets to red, that means that you definitely want to stop.
Okay.
There you go. And
okay, so let's just.
So that's good enough for now. So I'm going to hit stop here. So by clicking stop,
and I'm gonna take my.
Now you can see that. Yep. So this is definitely multiple fields of view. And again, there's some optimization that needs to be happening. I actually may want to turn off auto exposure so you don't get this exposure pattern here. But again, this is a nice option that if you wanted to, can give you that. And now when we were counting before, we were only seeing 3 or 4 of these cells, right? I think we were seeing this one field of view here. So now if you are counting, you have a whole tissue. You can also, again, zoom in, holding control and zooming in will allow us to zoom in to a certain magnification, right? So you get a higher resolution but lower magnification image because we're using the resolution of the 4x objective, but we're stitching multiple images together to give us a lower magnification image here.
Okay, and if I take my slide out, if I wanted to have like a mid-mag image of those 2 adrenals that I have, then I could do exactly that.
Yep.
We didn't capture it; it disappeared. But it's okay. I can do it
anytime so here's the capture. And actually what we can do is sort of like your web browser. I just, it's these tabs here. So what I just did was I clicked and dragged this tab to separate them. And then we can zoom out. Oops, too much there. But now you can see really what you get of one field of view versus our stitched image.
Wow, this is so cool. This is really super cool. Thank you so much.
It also comes with your EDF, which would be for a poorly cut, or a cytology smear does this in the Z-plane. So it merges all your images in focus in the Z-plane, but a bit less applicable for clinical.
Okay.
So just closing out my stitched image. This has not been saved yet, so the software is really nice in saying, hey, do you want to save it? I just hit no for that instance, and now we're back to our live image.
Okay, thank you so much for walking us through it. This is amazing. This camera and the software are pretty powerful, I have to say. I think for working with static images, this is more than enough. For many research applications, clinical applications, and probably even TalkSpot applications, definitely enough options here.
Well, I appreciate the time. Yeah, it's a stunning camera. Good. Obviously, image quality is important, but capabilities and functionality of the software are equally important. Easy to use, yet very capable. So
Thank you so much.
If you're still here, it means you're fantastic and that you really like microscopic photography. So if you do like microscopic photography and want to step up your game, check my affiliate link below. The link is going to take you to I.Miller Microscope page, and there you will have to put your email, but just write that you found out about Path4K on my YouTube channel, Digital Pathology Place, and then I.Miller Microscope team is going to contact you with a special offer for my subscribers, for my people. This offer is in the ballpark of a good DSLR camera. Usually it's more expensive than that. So if you're ready, check this out and I will be very grateful. Other than that, be sure to subscribe and click the bell below, be notified for my future videos. And I talk to you in the next episode.